Okay, 5 minutes. I'm going to talk a little bit about how I've been working out recently and some of what I've experienced working out in the gym here, what that's like for me with my disability, what I'm trying to do, etc. Just another journal post, which also I just want to mention for the 3 or 4 people that actually watch my posts here. I haven't posted any YouTube videos in I think it's like a month now. And I noticed that it's really hard to keep the motivation and the momentum going for doing something like this. Even though I told myself that this is really just a personal journal for me to express myself, to practice expressing myself to a camera or, you know, just how to say what I want to say in a clear, condensed way. Most of the time when I make a post, I also watch it back and I like to observe myself, hear how I speak, watch how I'm presenting, just as a kind of personal study for, how do I come across to other people, perhaps. Um, I'm sure there are plenty of people that say you shouldn't really care about that, it shouldn't matter, but it's not that I overly care about it, but I am interested. Let's say I do kind of care and I shouldn't care or whatever, but it doesn't matter because I do and I am interested in all that. So that's something else I've been thinking about recently with these is, when I get to a place where I'm a little bit confused about, why am I recording a video and putting it on YouTube for people to see? Like, what is my why? Why am I doing this? And sometimes I notice it feels a little bit flimsy when I say, it's just like a journal post, etc. But maybe that's not being fully honest about what it is for me and why I do enjoy doing it and why I want to find the motivation and the energy to just keep going even when I see that nobody really watches it or whatever, but coming back to exploring these other things that actually do matter to me that are interesting that I don't need other people to fully um, I don't need other people to feel the same way as me. For example, if I say that I like to watch the video back and sort of observe how I'm speaking, what are the words that I'm choosing, how am I expressing myself? Because, you know, like, not everybody's going to be into that. Not everybody wants to do that. I mean, I'm sure plenty of people think that's ridiculous and like a horrible idea, and it's too self-critical. But I don't really see it that way. I just see it as a way to think you know, so often I am having conversations with people. A lot of the conversations revolve around work topics, um, politics, things in the news, um, worldviews, points of views, philosophies, and a lot of those things can very easily be contentious for myself and for other people because most of us have really strong opinions. At least the kind of people that I find myself around, I think, tend to have really strong opinions or really strong perspectives, points of views about things. And so then conversations can easily feel quite dense or, you know, and for me, something that I'll say I've been interested in is just making sure that the way that I feel about something and my actual ideas are being expressed the way that I actually feel them and understand them myself. And that I don't think is very easy. For me, I don't think it's always been easy. I regularly say something, express something, and then, an hour or two later, I'm like, that was just not really the optimal way to express. I don't beat myself up about it. It doesn't always ruin my day. Sometimes it does. Um, Sometimes I beat myself up about it. But that's okay. I mean, for me, it's always been part of a craft or a hobby. People have a writing craft and they work on that and you learn techniques and you study that. You know, I had a conversation with a friend last weekend, and this friend is a bit of a writer, and I've made it really clear that I am not a writer. I don't like writing. I don't want to be a writer. I'm not interested in writing. Um, but the interesting part of the conversation was when, I was talking about how I feel like a lot of people have good stories. A lot of people have interesting ideas. Let's say for a story or for a book or whatever. But having a good idea or even having a really good story, let's say I've got a really good story about, um, you know, the last 3 years and all the like crazy things that I've been through. That could be a really interesting story. I've had like people tell me, "Oh, you should write a book now, you should talk about this." And that is like saying to somebody who has a really good idea in their head for an interesting house and then being like, "Well, you should build a house." You could, but you're going to need to spend maybe like 5, 10 years learning how to build a house so that you can actually manifest, bring your idea to life in the way that it wants to be brought to life. Um, and it's easy to not do that. So writing is the same, like if you could have an amazing story, but be not a good writer only because you just don't know the techniques, the 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 skills of writing that make it an art form. Do you know how to use em dashes? Do you know the difference between an em dash and a semicolon and why they're similar and when they're different and when to use the different ones? Um, I do, only because I looked that up a long time ago and I felt really special for a while because I learned something new. And it's amazing when you learn something new and I was like, oh, wow, I could do this. Anyways, my point is that, um, what is my point, actually? I love that I also get the opportunity when making these to see how easy it is for somebody like me to just kind of like veer off on a rambly side path and not know how exactly I got there and where I was and what my original intentions was. So that's what I mean about like making something and then observing it and being able to see like, it's really easy for me to see this out and about with friends, in gatherings, events, parties, and it's easy to observe somebody else who's doing it and be like, oh, this person's like just like rambling on, and I'm not even sure if they know what they're talking about or where they're going with it. But it's much harder to observe it in myself. And I think making these video posts for me is just kind of helping a little bit. Even if I don't watch it back, it's helpful just like right now in the process of hearing myself and kind of taking note of where I'm going, what I'm saying. Incredibly valuable, um, for sure. I mean, I think that's been reflected back to me in a lot of the people that I watch online that have developed an incredible skill of presenting over the years. And I think that's what I was connecting it to with the writing thing. Like, I think a lot of people just assume that if you've got a really good story, you could just like write a really good book. I don't think that's true at all. I mean, you need to be a good writer, and that is like a skill. Just because you have a good movie idea doesn't mean you can make a really good movie. Um, and also, just because you have a lot to say about things, let's say like me, just because I have a lot of opinions, just because I have a lot to say, doesn't make me a good presenter of those ideas, opinions, perspectives. Um, it it takes years and years of practice, and some of the people that I follow, I watch online, whose content I'm interested in. I mean, they've been doing this for years and years with very little attention, and then at some point they hit this inflection point or tipping point or whatever where all their skill in practicing, speaking, presenting, combined with their actual like good ideas or good content merge together, and then boom, suddenly they're like, uh, doing well or super famous or just, have enough audience to make that their thing. Again, that's not what I'm actually trying to do here with my post. I'm not actually trying to like build a big audience or, become an influencer or whatever. I'm just sort of like practicing it because, I work in media. I'm a designer. I love what I do. I love designing brands. I love moving things around. I love building things. I love building websites. Um, and I think that is why I'm also interested in this kind of thing too, like social media. This is a form of social media. I'm interested in it. It doesn't mean that it's because I want to be a social media star or something, but I do want to understand. I'm curious about like how people improve this as a skill, um, and maybe my understanding of it won't be used specifically by myself, but you know, I suppose it's a good skill I can leverage in my work, in my career. I do social media work for different brands, different companies on a very small scale. And that's another thing that the more understanding and the more direct experience I have with this kind of thing, the better I can do my other jobs and my other things. So, anyways, did I say at the beginning of this it was going to be about like a workout? Not about workouts. It's about what I just got done talking about. So that's the beautiful thing about my videos and not being obligated to anybody or to any specific content or type of thing. I can go wherever I want with this. I can completely change the topic. And that's what I've done. So there you go. There's my 15 minutes on whatever the fuck I just got done talking about. I have no idea how to headline what I just got done saying. Let's try really quick. Here's how I brainstorm a headline for a ridiculous video like this. It is about skills to pay the bills, self practice. Okay, there's something there. I won't do this here, but I'll get it. You'll see.